You want to feel loose and free, but without the hangover. Here's a key for you. Let's get into it. I'm so excited to welcome you back, sending you so much love, and welcome back to the show. This is Align Your Day. My name is Jenna Thanopoulos. I'm a certified life coach, and so excited to bring you today's little nugget. So as you've gathered, we're going to talk about how to really deepen the freedom, the feeling loose feeling without, needing all that assistance sometimes from a night out, how you can really build that muscle of feeling more free, feeling more open, feeling more fun and playful in your life in general. We're going to talk about that today and what you can start to do to build on that. So let's get into it. And you already know I got my cold brew in my cute ass little mug. Manifest that shit. So I hope you're manifesting that shit. I know you are. Cheers to a good 2023 for you or whenever you're watching this. So let's get into it. So today we're going to talk about, I want to just share with you first, I guess, before we get started. Had to take a little cold brew sip, but this is a quote that I just love. And I heard it again from one of my coaches. And she said, or I guess one of my, not coaches, what's her name? Professors at the coaching institute I went to. So she had told us this quote that's basically like, true liberation is being free from your automatic responses. And that is so key, right? Like, I want you to think about those moments or those days where you're like, oh, okay, yes, like I'm feeling so good. I'm feeling so confident. I know how, I know what I want to say. I kind of, I'm feeling more confident in my steps towards my career, or I'm just feeling more good about myself. And like, I want to keep this momentum going. And then a few weeks go by and you find yourself back in old patterns, doing the same shit, worried about the same doubts, feeling the same stressors. And you're like, oh, how do I get back to that? How do I, feel freer like I did in those past moments? How do I, really build on that momentum versus feeling like I'm always battling myself? Maybe when it comes to self-worth, or just allowing myself to release the pressure on myself, or whatever the case may be, right? Maybe you're having those good moments, you have these epiphanies, and then it's like, oh, then my old patterns come back. It's hard to follow through. I'm stressed again. I'm tense again. I'm thinking about the same old things. And it's like, you're back at it, right? And first of all, let's bring some compassion to that. We all have these moments of like, shit, now I'm back to this. I thought I was past this or whatever else. Like, so common, so normal. Let's normalize this, first of all. And that's why it's so key. That quote is so key, because that true liberation, that true freedom is when you're free from those automatic patterns, those automatic behaviors that keep you feeling small, that keep you, in your doubts, that keep you in your stressors. Those are all, behaviors and thought patterns and, unprocessed traumas that are keeping you at, keeping you protected, keeping you safe, because it's what your nervous system is used to. It's what your subconscious thinks is safe, but it's not really allowing you to feel free to build that momentum towards a deeper expression of yourself, or just deeper self-confidence, or deeper advocate in your work, or whatever else, right? It's like it can feel like you're taking 2 steps forward and then 4 steps back and all those things. So that's why it's so important to kind of build this muscle of freeing yourself from these automatic responses, right? And these automatic responses can be anything. It can be like those moments when you tend to people please. It can be, maybe certain stress spirals that you always find yourself in. Maybe it's, you do this one thing and you're like, oh, I'm not going to do this anymore. I'm not going to talk to this person anymore. And you reach out again, right? It's like those things where you're like, shit, I almost do this subconsciously. I do it automatically. And then you catch yourself after the fact. Those are more likely than not some of those automatic built-in responses. Like, maybe keep like one thing you could start to do to realize what your automatic responses are is to have like a week where, as much as you can, be the observer of yourself, right? And at the end of the day, you ask yourself, what were 2 to 4 things I did automatically today that I wish I did differently? Okay, you can ask yourself that at the end of the day or at the end of the week. What were a few things I did automatically, or I didn't realize I was doing in the moment that I wish I didn't, right? And this isn't to get you to feel bad about yourself or get you to have regrets about certain things, but just to get you to notice, right? Even little things. Maybe, I don't know, maybe you wish you said something to a friend that you didn't, right? Or maybe you, just like little things, and not to be hard on yourself, but just to kind of be the observer of like, ooh, where am I still keeping myself stuck? Where are some of my old patterns, my old responses coming in that I need to start to be aware of them, okay? Because you are not, the quote is, you can't change what you are not aware of. So you need to be aware of what needs changing in order to shift these behaviors, right? So start to keep an audit of yourself is the first thing, right? The first thing to really start to free yourself from your automatic responses is to know what these automatic responses are. So start to build like a little habit, right? Once a week, you kind of ask yourself, okay, what are 2 to 4 things I did that I wish I didn't, or I wish I did a little bit differently? Or what are 2 things that I did that my, best, most confident self probably wouldn't do, right? You want to start to align yourself with that next version of yourself. And the way you do so is through noticing what you do automatically, what behaviors you do automatically that are not in line with that version of you, right? That your confident self, that your empowered self would not do. So key. Think about it in the same lens of where the outfit you, for the position you want to be in versus the position you're in. Same thing goes with when you're trying to change your habits and step into a new version of yourself. You want to start to take on the behaviors that next level, that next version of you would do versus staying in some of those old ones, right? Like what would you do? You can even think about in this capacity, right? There's so many of us who maybe want to be in, nourishing relationships or partnerships or whatever else. Even if you don't want to get married, just, date someone and have a committed relationship, whatever the case, right? Maybe you want to be in a relationship, you want to ask yourself, would the version of me who values herself, who knows what she's worth, would she agree with this behavior? Would she do this? Someone who is being valued by someone who loves her, by a man who cherishes her, would she do this? Right? Little things like that. You can kind of shift the question you ask yourself, but ask yourself those questions to see, okay, based on who I want to become in the next year, what patterns are not in line with that? What behaviors are not in line with that? And the first thing you want to ask yourself, or I guess the thing you want to hone in on is, automatically. What do you do almost automatically that you wish you didn't? So something to keep in mind of and start to build on in order to really start to see these shifts, right? So key, because I'll bring back to the quote, right? True liberation is being free from your automatic responses. So start to become aware of what these automatic things are that are limiting you. So key. And what else am I gonna say? Yeah, okay, so that's the first thing. Second thing is I'm gonna give you like a little tool you can start to do that will help you when you feel like you're about to maybe doubt yourself deeper, or you're feeling in like a little spiral of like, oh, I'm getting worried about this thing. Maybe something happened at work, you're feeling really stressed out. Maybe you're getting into comparison mode. Oh my God, she's so much further ahead than me. She knows her shit. She's in this really good position. I'm not thrilled with where I'm at in work right now. Whatever else or in between, right? Maybe you're starting to get into those little spirals. Maybe something happened with your family and you're like, shit, like why does my mom always have to do this? Why is she, like this? Or why is dad like this? Whatever the case may be, if you find yourself in a little bit of a like inner spiral or inner kind of, session with yourself where you're like really getting down on yourself and kind of looping into kind of some negative thoughts, this is a little tool you can start to do to unravel yourself, back out a little bit, come back to presence, and then start to respond differently, right? We don't want to go back to the automatic responses. We want to start to respond differently. So this is a little tool you can do. It's by, you can look it up. It's by Byron Katie's work. And so you can just use this as like a mini tool to start to kind of coach yourself a little bit, a little taste of what you'd get coaching with me. You can do this on yourself a little bit and just kind of see where it leads you. So all it is like a 4-step process. And so if you find yourself in these spirals or thinking about this thought that's really draining you, first you want to ask yourself, is it true, right? Ask yourself, is this thought true? Is it true? Second question is, can I absolutely know that it is true? And answer yes or no. Because so much of the time, our mind, we go into these narratives. We create these huge stories in our head, and then we're like, oh wait, is this what's really happening in reality, right? Like think about that moment where maybe it took an hour for your friend to respond, and you were creating this huge scenario. Oh my gosh, she hates me. She's not going to respond to me. I'm not going to have any friends. Maybe I should have said this differently so I could actually have a couple girlfriends to go out with on Valentine's Day. Oh my God, right? And you start to spiral. You start to create all these narratives. Let's take a step back and let's kind of ask ourselves, right? Is this absolutely true? So that's the second question. First question, I'll repeat it. Is it true? Second question, is it absolutely true? Third question, how do you react, or what happens to your body, to your emotional state, to your mental state when you believe that thought, right? So really, really key. And what was I going to say? And who or what would you be without that thought is the fourth question. So I'll just kind of write it down or put it over here as like the 4 questions. So you can see it, and I'll put a little link to the tool in my podcast so you can kind of look at it. But it's a very simple thing you can start to kind of coach yourself out of when you're feeling like, oh, I'm about to spiral. Oh, I'm creating all these narratives in my head again. Because so much of the time we forget that we kind of like create these stories in our head that may not be true. Think about it when you, maybe in the past when you like saw this guy, right? And you're like, oh my God, you start to create a story in your head. Oh my God, we could really be the perfect couple. I see us married already. Like, wow, right? You went on 2 dates with him and you're already like, oh my God, he can give me the ring. Like, I am ready. I see all these things, right? And it's like, and then you realize like a month or 2 later, what was I thinking? Like, why was I thinking that, right? It's so easy to create these narratives, these stories in our head, which keep us in these old patterns, keep us in these old responses versus being present to what's really true in the moment and responding from the current version of us, from the version of us that, we want to respond from versus some old patterns. So you can start to use that little mini tool to kind of get yourself out of those loops, get yourself out of those spirals. I just want to give it to you as like a little takeaway, right? It's like, and like I said, I put the 4 questions there below, but you can just use it on yourself, right? And see and start to notice how much battle or resistance do you get when you're trying to answer those questions. Like when you're trying to purposely free yourself, which is what those questions are trying to do. They're trying to free yourself from thoughts or from stories that are keeping you limited, keeping you stuck, keeping you in your doubts. When you try to free yourself, when you try to get yourself out of it, notice, how is my body responding when I'm trying to free myself? Because it's sometimes it's scary. It's scary to realize that, oh my gosh, right? To admit, like, I'm literally purposely keeping myself stuck here. I'm purposely choosing to believe this thought that I know is not good for me to believe, right? It's so key to notice where are you still limiting yourself? Where are you still battling with yourself when it comes to freeing yourself, when it comes to believing more empowering things about yourself, about your life, about the situation, right? So key. So just start to notice, how much resistance do you have? What's coming up for you, and that could start to unveil where maybe some of your work lies when it comes to maybe old patterns you need to get out of, maybe things that are coming up that you're like, ooh, I still need to work on this, right? And you can write those down, and if you want to start coaching about them or, talk about it in like a 30-minute session with me and see, you know what, Jen, I want to see if I can get help on this, so happy to do this. But it's so key to just start this process for yourself of actively getting yourself out of these loops, out of these patterns, so you can start to free yourself a bit more. And that'll help you feel, freer, more loose without feeling like you need to give yourself that permission of a Saturday night out, go out, and then finally feel that feeling, right? It's like you can slowly allow yourself to feel more free when you're not feeling caged by those typical stressors, by those typical thought patterns that come up for you. So really, really key. And so next steps after using this tool. So after using the tool, you can just like continue to use it, the 4 questions, like as it comes up throughout the week, as you get stuck in old patterns, as you get stuck in old stressors, like I encourage you to use it. And some next steps to really ensure that you're building the momentum. As I mentioned in the beginning of the episode, how do you continue building that momentum? How do you continue, forward with making those new strides, with sticking to your confidence, with sticking to your worth? These are the steps. Accountability. Accountability is huge. It is huge. 97% chance higher chance to stick to your goals, to stick to new habits when you have accountability. That's why coaching is so key. You have personal accountability from me. I can literally text you. I make calendar reminders. I make like little, little GCal schedule reminders. I make little trackers for you. I make 2 trackers actually, as a little side note. I make 1 tracker so we can track how your inner goals are doing. So let's say you came to coaching because you want to grow your confidence, or you want to grow your self-worth, or you want to grow your joy, you want to grow your self-love. We actually create a tracker for you to track how those qualities are doing as I'm coaching with you. So that's a great way to also keep you accountable, because you're being honest with yourself of, okay, Jenna, these tools are working for me. I'm clearly seeing an increase in my self-worth. I'm seeing an increase in my self-love. So it's a great way to keep yourself accountable, so you could actually see the progress and the momentum you're making, because we're tracking it every week. So that's like one of the trackers. And the second one is like an outer tracker. So it could be like, how are my relationships feeling? How am I feeling at work with my stress? How am I feeling when it comes to my relationship with my parents, or my relationship with my money and my finances, my allocations, things like that, right? So I create like 2 different trackers based on what you want to work on, and based on what your goals are. And you can take a look at my coaching website. I actually updated it for you. So if you're like, ooh, I might be interested in this, you could take a look at like what the package includes and kind of like FAQs and stuff. So if you want to dive into that, then I encourage you to do that. But let's go back to my thing. Accountability is so huge. And you can even have an accountability buddy with your best friend. If you're like, you know what, bestie, keep me accountable for a little bit here. I want to make sure I'm sticking to, these 2 behaviors, or these 2 like responses, or whatever you want to work on, right? Like you can even have it with a friend, right? Some sort of accountability is so key when you want to continue the momentum forward. Second thing is emotional processing and awareness. What's going on for you emotionally when you maybe want to fall back into old patterns or old behaviors? Or what's going on for you emotionally when it's really hard for you to stick to your boundary in a certain area, or it's really hard to speak up for yourself. You know what your confident self would do, but it feels hard to do so. What happens emotionally for you on that? Because that's probably some processing that you need to do based on your childhood, or based on old events that happened in your life. There's some processing that needs to happen in order for that new behavior to feel safe, right? So second thing is emotional awareness and emotional processing. And actually, I encourage you to look at this video, or I'm going to link the podcast down below when I talk about the importance of like processing your emotions and how to make your emotions less scary. That is, I think, a really key step to building momentum towards your next self, towards your future goals, because you're honoring yourself, your emotions, and what needs to be processed along the way. Really, really key. You're not suppressing things, and you're honoring yourself, right? Because there were things in your childhood probably that you need to process that happened that are keeping you in those old behaviors, in those automatic responses. So the way that you can get out of them is by actually processing that experience and letting it flow out of you, and then making those new behaviors. So that's why emotional processing is so key. And that's my second thing. And the third thing that is really important is to ask yourself, what is the payoff I'm getting from this old response, from this old automatic response I'm doing? Maybe, like I said, you kind of have that weekly audit with yourself, where you ask yourself, what are 2 behaviors that are not working for me anymore? Or what are 2 behaviors that, I wish I didn't do today, and I wish I would have changed, right? That question I asked you earlier about the automatic thing. So you want to ask yourself, what is the payoff I'm getting from doing these things, right? What is the payoff I'm getting? Maybe it's feeling secure in my friendships, that they're not going to leave me because I didn't say, I couldn't hang out with them for a couple days, right? Or whatever the case may be. Or maybe the payoff is, feeling secure, feeling more secure. Maybe the payoff is approval, like you want approval from these certain people, right? Most likely the payoff is going to be between the 3 categories of security, safety, and approval, right? So that's going to be like probably overarching categories. They'll be within those 3. But you want to start to notice, what is the payoff from these old behaviors you're doing, and how can you start to give that to yourself, right? Because the reason you do something, it's not for like a negative purpose. You're doing it because there's a payoff to it, and because you, even though it may be subconscious, you're getting some sort of benefit from that action, right? So even when people please, right? When you people please, you're getting that benefit of maybe getting that other person's love, their approval, their recognition of you. They're being like, oh my God, there's no one like you. You do everything for me. You're amazing, right? Like that recognition is that payoff sometimes, right? Or it could be, like I said, a sense of safety. Maybe you get, it could be in like a past relationship and you feel like you're really safe with your partner. You were really safe with your partner. And so you would appease him so you could feel that safety with him, right? Or whatever the case may be. So you want to start to ask yourself, what is the payoff you're getting from this old behavior? And how can you start to give yourself that payoff? And I know you may be like, Jenna, that's really weird. I mean, how do I start to give myself security or safety or approval? Well, answer it in your own way. How do I give myself more approval? How do I show myself I'm safe? Do I actively try to regulate my nervous system? Am I open to learning about how to regulate my nervous system and make myself feel more safe? How am I feeling with my finances, with my money? What's working? What's not? Where am I spending that doesn't feel good? And how can I spend it in a more aligned way, right? Because safety obviously correlates with money and feeling safe financially, right? That's another question you could ask under that safety umbrella. And then the third thing, security, right? Safety, was it? Yeah, security, right? Oh wait, I guess financial would go under security, my bad. So there's security, safety, and approval. So security probably is under financial. Safety is, like I said, asking yourself, how can you feel more regulated? How can you feel like more at ease? That's all about, I think to me, safety is all about your nervous system, all about how to keep yourself more regulated, more calm, more at ease, and how to actively, when you're feeling jittery, when you're feeling anxious, or when you're feeling super numbed out, super depressed, how to actively bring yourself to a state of homeostasis, right? And if you're like, Jenna, that sounds really complicated. What the hell are you talking about? I have this five-day free guide where I swear I break it down for you in like a very simple way on day one. It's nothing crazy. It's just about doing little things each day or throughout your day to just like ensure that you're checking in with yourself. It's not anything like super intense, but it's like a muscle you need to start to build with yourself to show yourself that you're safe. Because so much of the time nowadays, especially in like busy jobs or whatnot, we're constantly like in like a survival mode, flight, fright, freeze, appease just means like people please. So it's like, oh my gosh, it's very like, you can constantly be stimulated and constantly be in like this survival mode in your day-to-day. So you want to do things that help you feel more safe and more secure. And that's why regulation is so important. And I have that free guide for you that helps you with that in day one. So you can check that out. But what was I gonna say? I hope I wasn't rambling here. That's that. So I'm gonna like cap it because I was talking about it. But accountability, emotional processing and awareness, and then knowing what the payoff is from that old behavior. What is that payoff? Ask yourself, get honest with yourself. And how can you give that payoff to yourself, right? So key. Ask yourself, what do you get from that person who you always people please for? What do you get from them? What are you receiving from them? And start to be honest with yourself, like notice, what is it? And how can you give it to yourself? Or ask yourself, how come I can say, I feel more confident talking to these friends versus this one friend? What does that one friend represent to you? What is the payoff you're getting from responding in a certain way from that friend, right? So key. Start to ask yourself those deeper questions. And that is what will start to point to where you're still automatically keeping yourself a little bit stuck, keeping yourself in old patterns, and how you can start to free yourself a little bit more. So that's so key. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this. I hope this was beneficial to you. It gave you kind of those steps to help you feel more freer, more empowered in your day-to-day. And I hope that tool is really helpful that I gave you too. So I'll talk to you soon. If you have any questions, let me know. Hope this was jam-packed for you. And sending you so much love. Okay? Cheers, babe. Mwah.